Kash Patel, the FBI director, had a date on Capitol Hill yesterday and today. Let's turn to the Senate hearing when Senator Patty Murray of Washington tried to accuse him of politicizing the FBI. Pretty rich, considering what we've seen the FBI involved with over the last several years. In fact, this comes the exact same week that an inspector general's report verifies that the FBI completely bungled the baseball diamond shooting in Alexandria, Virginia, where a crazy left-wing maniac tried to kill as many Republican congressmen as he could. It was clearly a politically motivated act, but Christopher Wray's FBI reached the conclusion that politics had nothing to do with it. Well, now the Inspector General, just this week, has come out with the truth on that. And so Patty Murray dares to suggest that Kash Patel's the one politicizing the FBI. The FBI has been politicized. He's trying to clean shop. So here's how that questioning went. Because Kash Patel, he ain't taking any of this.
Gang cases, 3,000 cases against violent.
Well, that's not my question. We know that you.
Well, you asked if I was weaponizing the FBI, and I am not. I'm giving you the hard, concrete examples of the men and women putting handcuffs on bad people, doing harm to our children and innocent Americans. I do not see weaponization.
You have placed on leave FBI employees responsible for the investigation of January 6th. That sounds political to me.
I have not placed anyone on leave who has not violated their ethical obligation or their oath to the Constitution.
So if they were investigating January 6th, you believe they were violating an ethical obligation?
Nope. I think the common theme here is you putting words in my mouth, and I'm not going to tolerate it, nor will the men and women of the FBI.
Well, you did place on leave an analyst responsible for investigating Russia's meddling in the 2016 election. Is that politicization? Is that retribution?
No, not if she broke the law or the ethical guidelines. I don't know which case you're talking about, but that's the standard. And we will hold ourselves inwardly accountable, and we will not be strayed from our mission because people think we are politicizing the Bureau. If you want to talk about someone who was attacked by a weaponized Bureau, you're looking at him. And now he's the director of the FBI and he's cleaning it up.
Well, I would just say to everyone who's listening that the FBI needs to be focused on its mission to keep the entire country safe. It should not be weaponized for partisan political gain. Thank you.
We are.
Chairman.
Senator Kennedy.
I absolutely love that he can not only push back, punch back verbally on this kind of abusive innuendo that you're getting from Democrat lawmakers, but he can also say, oh, I'm sorry, are you worried about weaponizing the FBI? Because let me tell you my story, pal. He did the exact same thing yesterday in the House of Representatives under a similar attack from a Democrat.
Agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies list on that book.
So
there are people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people, and they were rightly called out. And you should give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6th insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times. And you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that
the answer is you're failing, not me.
Play my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job.
Yeah, between those two, I'm picking Kash in the long run. I think that he came across way more genuine and way more sincere in his interest in truth. And she just comes across as an absolute bully, especially when you accuse somebody of perjury, when you accuse somebody of a crime. You can't just throw it out there as some sort of veiled suggestion in a form of a question during a hearing. Patel said, "You accusing me of crime? Bring it. Let's go. Otherwise, shut your yap." All right, let's bring it back to today. A couple of other highlights of Kash Patel trying to fend off innuendo and accusations from Democrats because that's all they've got.
It concerns me that you're not familiar with the core concept of due process applying to all persons as written in black and white in the Constitution.
As the first public defender who's ever served at the FBI as its director, I'm more aware of due process than any predecessor in my seat. You are delineating between removal proceedings and criminal acts. My job is to investigate criminal acts. That's what we do.
Thank you. I love it. Senator Markley there is trying to make a big deal about due process for people who are being deported. And he's like, I'm the FBI. I deal with criminal acts. Very different due process over here than an immigration judge. The senator should watch our interview with the immigration judge from last week. Then Chris Van Hollen, you remember him, the one who went down to El Salvador and had a margarita with his favorite Maryland man, you know, the MS-13 wife-beaten human trafficker. Yeah, Chris Van Hollen is very concerned, get this, about cameras taking pictures of the judge the FBI arrested in Wisconsin last week. He's not concerned about the judge breaking the law and harboring an illegal alien criminal. He's concerned that there was a picture circulated of the arrest. Watch.
Today of many individuals' due process rights. Let me ask you a question about Judge Dugan. And I'm not going to get into about Judge Dugan, who was arrested, taken out in handcuffs from her courtroom. You agree that as director of the FBI, you should lead by example, right?
Try to.
Okay. Well, there's a confidentiality and media contacts policy within the Department of Justice guidelines that says specifically that DOJ personnel should not voluntarily disclose a photograph of a defendant unless it serves a law enforcement function or unless the photograph is already part of the public record in the case. Clearly, Judge Dugan's photograph was not already part of the public record in the case. So it appears that what you did was a violation of that policy, unless you can express a clear law enforcement purpose for having done that.
The simple law enforcement purpose is to show America that we investigate any individual who commits a crime, especially those in positions of public trust.
But do you agree with the presumption of innocence in the U.S. system?
Absolutely. As a public defender, that's what I fought for years. Well, but that's different than this.
But Mr. Director, this is one of the reasons why that guideline is there, so people, especially the director of the FBI, doesn't announce to the country that somebody's already been found criminally liable when they haven't. She hasn't, has she?
But that's not what we said, that she was criminally liable. We said she was arrested. No, showed it.
Yeah, we know she was arrested, but the issue is the photograph. I'm asking you, going forward, I hope as the leader of the FBI, you will comply with the guidelines of the FBI that everybody else is expected to follow.
I believe I have, and I will going forward.
Well, this seems like a direct violation.
You can continue watching this online at cspan.org.
Wow, that is unbelievable. Chris Van Hollen is like self-emulating. He's like decided he's going to be a suicide bomber with his political career. Are you kidding me? Did you catch that exchange? It's like, how dare you show a photograph of this judge being arrested? What's the criminal justice reason for doing that? And Kash Patel's like, well, to let people know that if they break the law, they'll be arrested. But She hasn't been found guilty. Isn't she innocent? Well, yes, of course she's innocent, but she got arrested. And there's certainly criminal justice value in showing that arrest. Well, you're not supposed to alert the media. You're not supposed to. Sorry, did this guy not, did he sleep through the last 10 years of our lives? Did he not know how James Comey, Robert Mueller, Christopher Wray had CNN cameras there at 5 a.m. when Roger Stone was arrested in his apartment? How did they know about it? Did they not see the camera crews at Mar-a-Lago when the FBI did an early morning raid there? How did those camera crews know about it? What about the poor guy who was arrested in Philadelphia for praying on the sidewalk, a public square in front of a Philadelphia abortion clinic? He got raided by the FBI, and somehow the cameras knew about that. And Chris Van Hollen never had any concern about that. You know, the difference is that FBI wanted to intimidate individual Americans, either Republican politicians like Donald Trump or individual American Catholics who don't like abortion and want to pray to their God to stop it. Chris Van Hollen's okay with those Americans being intimidated by showing video footage of an early morning FBI raid. But the last thing we want to do is to send a message to corrupt judges who might want to stand in the way of an arrest of an illegal alien wife beater. These people are terrible. But Kash Patel, once again, handled it beautifully. One other element of today's hearing, really interesting, our pal, Senator John Kennedy, had a question about Jeffrey Epstein. You may not have seen this. Take a look.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When you think you'll have it done, Kash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So there you go. An update on the Epstein files, that they are still going through them line by line by line. But I think that is a bit of a headline that Kash Patel, the FBI director, believes that Epstein did, in fact, kill himself. Now, listen, part of the job of the FBI director is to be held accountable and answer questions under oath from both sides of the political aisle in the House and the Senate. You just saw him fending off attacks from Democrats in a very, very good way. And I'm glad he's there for that. But the most important job of the FBI director is to make sure that our laws are upheld and that the worst federal criminals in this country are held accountable. And yesterday, when he wasn't answering ridiculous, unfounded charges from Democrats on Capitol Hill, he was making an announcement to the worst people on the planet. A really strong message.
Our children. If you harm our children, you will be given no sanctuary. There is no place we will not come to hunt you down. There is no place we will not look for you. And there is no cage we will not put you in should you do harm to our children. The prioritization of this administration and General Bondi has made it abundantly clear to child predators. You will be hunted down and you will be prosecuted. And that is a refreshing thing to hear for the men and women who do this work tirelessly. And it's also an acknowledgement of the safety that we look forward to bringing America.
Yeah, and that's actually, sadly, a new message from our FBI and the DOJ. It would have been great to see the former FBI director emphasize issues like that and crimes and criminals like that versus the politicization that he did end up focusing on. That's Kash Patel. That's your FBI director. And whether he's going after the bad guys in your neighborhood or he's going after the bad guys in Congress, he's doing a great job so far.